The Polecat Cast, where our stealthy polecats ferret out the best feels, funnies, and what the fucks to discuss Slam Bam Badger style. Buckle up, buckaroos, try to secure your sides, and mind your spines. Also, maybe don't eat anything beforehand, and make sure the bleach is locked up tight. Boy, these warnings aren't really doing a good job of creating pre-show hype, are they? Today's Polecat panel is very small, and consists of the big half of Big and Robot, Scott the self-aware simian, Max Derritt, he is not jaundiced, I promise you, just Simpsonskin, coming from the mysterious land of Springfield. And
USA.
me, yeah, Springfield, USA, specifically. And me, your host, the dog behind the controls. Today, we will be discussing the following topic. A French think tank reports that boys are falling behind in academia because the parents and society are socializing them with the wrong kind of masculinity. Hey men, do you want to be a better lover? Do you want to please your woman in ways that other men can't? Well, here's what you need to do. Get circumcised. Sure, it's exceedingly painful, and it might leave you with lots of both physical and psychological trauma, but don't you want to please women better? That's the patriarchy talking. Shia LaBeouf's performance art piece, now a mere shadow of its former self, had been simply reduced to a flag, and little did Shia know, capture the flag is 4chan's specialty. Some schmuck trolls Women's Day. Some schmuck on a local university trolls Women's Day by telling the oldest joke ever, which is asking for a sandwich, and the local university flips out and starts a manhunt. Did you know that today is Steak and Blowjob Day? Well, yes it is. That is what March 14th is. Well, it seems as though Cosmopolitan has taken a break from telling women how to give better head, which is basically every article they make, to releasing an article on why you should not give head anymore. And then shortly after that, they went back to suggesting how to give better head. Why do women read this shit? And finally, our bonus story for the patron-only after show. It appears that telling social justice warriors their idea of a wonderful utopia that is without violence, oppression, or even rudeness is simply a dream. Southern Illinois University has apparently accepted this fact and is literally having nap-ins so that their students and faculty can dream of diversity. Anyway, if you would like to participate in our after shows, either as an audience member or as a participant, such as this Dream Within a Dream, please consider becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. And now we will get into the stories. And first up, I'm going to give it to Max to tell us about the weaker sex.
But before we get into that, I just want to say, ladies, you don't need Cosmopolitan. Just take my 7-day course. The Economist put out an article last Tuesday called The Weaker Sex. The article investigated why boys are currently lagging behind girls in global educational systems and tried to determine what had changed from 40 years prior when boys were outpacing girls. The basis for the article was a report by the OECD, a Paris-based think tank. It noted that even though there is gender parity in the sciences, and obviously boys dominate mathematics, girls outperformed boys in reading in all 64 countries surveyed. Later on in the article, the authors note that once boys are in the classroom, they long to be out of it. To people like us, the answer must be that the classroom environment isn't the most fulfilling for a lot of boys and not the best way to foster their natural abilities. However, the OECD has a different answer. Quote, the OECD now urges parents and policymakers to steer boys away from a version of masculinity that ignores academic achievement. Fuck you. But wait, it gets better. Ivan Yip, principal of the Bronx Leadership Academy in New York, offered his thoughts on the matter. In one quote, he says the following: there's a mentality that it's not cool for them to perform, that it's not cool to be smart. In another quote, he says, unfortunately, there's a tendency where they try to live up to certain expectations in terms of bad behavior. The most incredible thing about the article is that it dances around the most obvious reason that classrooms work better for girls than for boys, but never articulates that possibility. For example, the report notes that boys did better in anonymized tests than in teacher assessments, that their lack of self-discipline drives teachers crazy, and it even mentions the possibility that because women make up 8 out of 10 primary school teachers and roughly 7 out of 10 lower secondary teachers, they may be just just maybe, might favor their own sex. I suppose we should look to countries where the gender gap in reading is relatively small for inspiration. Maybe countries like Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru could teach us something, according to the OECD. Now, who just wants to take this away first?
Take it away, like, to the trash?
Yeah, exactly. Like most, things that come out of France. I'm kidding.
Oh.
Je vous adore, mes amis. I'm kidding. Just relax.
Oh, you wanted the Quebec, aren't you?
No, fuck the Quebecers. I love France. Fuck Quebec. Anyways.
I'm just trying to start shit, Max. I'm sorry.
I think
I went there.
Max
Okay.
speaks some French because you're close enough to French Canada that you probably need to learn it or something.
No, it's actually the reason. Well, I mean, I suppose I could use that excuse, but it's mostly because I actually do love French culture. I just don't like Quebec French.
Yeah, right. No,
Yeah.
I noticed that a lot of actually, I don't know too many Canadians that I've met that like the French Canadians. Yeah, that seems to be a recurring theme that I've noticed.
Yeah, you only find people speaking French in the province of Quebec, where in all the other 12 provinces, it's exclusively English. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With lots of French translations.
I have family
yes.
there.
Yeah.
I have family in Quebec and in Toronto.
Well, I guess I could start. It's not really surprising that boys would be falling behind in school. We've talked about feminism in academia and its effects, and not just people who call themselves feminists that work in academia, but like it's essentially because it's the mainstream ideology. It's sort of like the norm belief. And the idea that that is just the way you should think about the world, and then you add on top of that the fact that most of the time women go into academics, academic pursuits, then you're going to get an education that's on the feminized side, basically. So you're going to get one that's favored, it's going to favor girls. Whether that's intentional or not, especially because one of the central tenets of feminism is that the genders are, socialized. There's no difference between boys and girls. So whatever works for female teachers, when they think about it, they're not usually thinking about how boys' psychology is different, because they assume it's going to work out the same way. So they just go with what works on girls, and they assume that if boys aren't adapting to it, or if they're not doing as well, it's not because they're boys. It's because, they're rambunctious, or they need to be medicated, or it's something else. It's not that you're not educating them correctly,
There's no biological difference between girls and boys, right?
Exactly.
According to modern feminism.
Yeah, exactly. They're the same.
We're all exactly the same. Physically, chemically, mentally, everything is exactly the same.
Right.
I mean, hell, men even have nipples. I mean, come on.
I mean, they started.
Fucking check me.
Everyone starts off as girls, and then it just so happens that boys change their mind somewhere in the process of in the womb. They just decide that they don't want to be girls anymore, which is sexist because everyone should want to be girls. But fuck perpetuating the species. We should all just be girls. Decide it in the womb. I'm waiting for that article to actually become a real one, by the way, that I just said.
Right.
But no, it's it's messed up.
I wouldn't doubt if it's already happened, honestly.
It doesn't shock me too much that this would be happening. We know that this is happening in education, but what is upsetting is that the people who put the study out said it's because of the ways boys are socialized, and that what was it that they said? That boys don't. The mentality is it's not cool for them to perform, and it's not cool to be smart.
Actually, you know what? I'll be the devil's advocate and say I experienced that when I was growing up. I actually definitely had that happen because I was in a lot of they're called GT classes, gifted and talented.
Sure.
And frankly, when I was a kid, I didn't feel I felt really out of place around other kids because I hate to sound like such a dick, but I was a lot smarter than the people around me. And it was a very weird thing. And people made me feel uncomfortable for being smarter and achieving more than they were. And so I would agree with that to a certain extent, though. But I find a lot of what their conclusions that they're coming to with this thing is spurious, I guess is a good word for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna take what you're saying because as someone who grew up, in a minority
Grows-
community,
grows up.
grows up. See, I got educations too. No, but as someone who grew up in the inner city, in a predominantly black and Hispanic neighborhood, the idea that education was not cool runs rampant in these areas. And it's actually one of the reasons why so many minorities don't do well. Part of it has to do with there is an attitude within the culture itself that rejects being smart, and being ambitious as some kind of there's like a sellout mentality that comes with it.
Yeah, you're sellout.
But exactly. But it's not limited to boys, because I think that girls also can be that way if it gets cliquish and stuff. And I think it's more of a cultural thing than anything else. But I also think that there is an idea that, like with boys, for example, it's not cool to be smart. Is what they're saying, right? And I think in the places where that happens, what you have is boys want to be, they want to get recognition for things outside of being smart. They want to get recognition for being athletic or being the toughest, or some other thing that they can measure among their peers, right? So if they're good at sports, or if they're tougher, or if they're I don't know, they're expressing some other kind of merit that they want to show, because sometimes competing with other boys on an intellectual level can show a lot of imbalance. So this is why you get bullies that pick on nerds and not the reverse, because the nerds, they tend to stand out, and a lot of it has to do with envy in those cases. But girls do it too, but for them it's more about being popular, is not about being smart. It's about essentially what we're looking at in those cases where boys don't think it's cool to be smart, or girls don't think it's cool to be smart, because that happens too, is essentially like the early stages of an expression of what feminists call toxic masculinity, but I just think that it's basically like toxic gender behavior that isn't, it's not being checked by parents, by peers, by social workers, by educators, at least not in the way that is proportionate. So when we see it, people think, oh, this is a boy thing, but I don't think it is. I think it's a girl thing too. I just think that with girls, they're just like, well, it's important to be pretty, to be stylish, to have friends, to essentially have a lot of social power. That's more important than being smart, because obviously cliquish girls pick on nerdy girls too. So I think that what it comes down to is, to make it easy, it's not a gendered thing. It's basically the less intelligent lashing out against the more intelligent. And what often happens as a result of that is the more intelligent, they are put in a position where they either tone down their nerdiness and become more like their peers because they want friends, or they push past it and sort of deal with the bullying. And I think that, because I used to be a bully and I used to be bullied. So when I was in high school, I had really great grades, but I didn't talk to anybody because I was socially awkward, and I was doing really well. But when I realized, well, I didn't realize because this was a big fucking mistake, but I really wanted to make friends. I really wanted to be liked and accepted by my peers in high school. So I started to actually let my grades slip so that I can hang around with them. And that I ended up sacrificing grades and merit, for friends. And I went back on that later because I realized that I was doing this for people who didn't really give a shit about me. But when you're 15 or 14 years old, you're just looking.
Yeah, you're
for
trying to find
acceptance.
your place.
Yeah, exactly.
You're trying to find your place. I had the same problem, except I was the biggest kid in my school. I was not a bully. I was the guy who actually fought the bullies. Mm-hmm. And I was also in advanced classes and things like that. So I had this weird thing where I was trying to fit in, like every kid does. You're trying to find your place. And the fact that I was smarter than everybody else, and I was so excited to go to school and do school stuff and learn and interact and all this kind of stuff. And that was frowned upon. Just kind of like the social dynamic of kids, because I think part of it is other kids don't want to feel like they're not as good at stuff, right? So they'll make you feel bad. They'll fucking bully you. They'll shit talk you, whatever way it manifests. And so that was always a problem in regards to that, because I was kind of torn because I wasn't getting bullied. Nobody bullied me. Like it was nobody bullied me. So I didn't have that certain dynamic. So it was a really weird thing because I never really fit in. It's like I had like 3 friends. We're always just us 4 together, and they played D&D, and I didn't even fit into that. So it was just like, oh God, I don't even work there either, So it was such a strange thing. So I think there's some legitimacy to the idea that when you do well, it makes other people feel bad about themselves, and it creates.
And
I think that more than anything creates a toxic situation.
Yeah, exactly. And they take it out on you. And the thing is, if they get their way in the cases where they do, they basically take the people that are exceptional and tear them down to their level so that they don't feel bad about themselves. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because that is something that I notice SJWs do all the time. When they're not good at something, they want to tear somebody else down, and they do it either through bullying, which is like straight up physical threats, or they do it through shame. And when I think with kids that works the same way. Boys usually use physical intimidation, girls usually use shame or social ostracism. So to get their way. But okay, so that's that. But there's also another thing in here that is in the article where boys are twice as likely as girls to report school is a waste of time. And they often, they're basically less enthusiastic. I think that has more to do with the fact that education does not consider boys. It doesn't consider their needs. So we have, people are dialing back recess. Many places don't have it at all. There's nothing that deals with a boy's energy and the way that they learn. It's less interactive. It's less hands-on. It's extremely risk-averse. And these things are not interesting to boys, or by and large. Max, you put your name in. Did you want to tell us a little bit about bullying?
Well, I just sort of wanted to give my perspective because from what I understand, you guys were probably finishing high school in the mid-90s, whereas I was just starting kindergarten in the new millennium. And, with the feminization of schools starting, I guess, somewhere in the mid-70s all the way up until now, you start to see different things occur over time from when you guys were in school to when I was starting school. But what I found myself doing, along with some other kids, just to try and cope with this reality, is to sort of take the most gynocentric approach, because what I found, whenever I stepped out of line, the way that women would shriek at me and just show their distaste was absolutely horrifying to me, and the shame that comes along with that. And it's also especially terrible when you're autistic and you're a lot more sensitive to these sorts of things. So what happens sometimes is, just for boys, in order to cope with this sort of thing, they don't just they don't rebel against it and say, oh, it's not cool to be smart or actually go to class. What they'll actually do is they just try to cater to women's the whim of their female peers and their professors, which is what I did. And I basically became the most stereotypical gynocentric pushover that you can think of, up until like the last 5 years or so, where I actually started to realize what the hell was going on. And that's one reality of it, and can seriously mess up a lot of dudes, because what's happening is you're suppressing a lot of that masculine rambunctious energy, which can be channeled in very, very productive ways outside of the classroom, where you're actually doing things with your hands, like you said, Brian, where if you want to do it in sports, if you want to be a mechanic or an engineer or something, that's an alternative that should legitimately be investigated for young men. But unfortunately, it's not at the moment.
Yeah, that's actually a good point that you mentioned, because I did, and I'm sure Scott did too, but at the time I didn't notice it, but when I look back now, I can see just how much education changed just from the time that I started in the late 70s, when I started kindergarten, all the way up until I graduated from college just a few years ago. Oh, that's only because I took a big break, not because I somehow could not finish. Although, to your point, I graduated high school in 1992, but it would have been 1991, except that I had to repeat a year, and the reason why was because I let my grades slip so much because I wanted to be popular, specifically with girls, that I completely lost the plot on what I was supposed to be doing and how important school was. And yes, that happened. So I was also dealing with bullying too because I was, considered to be a nerd because the high school I went to was close. It was basically like 3 blocks away from the most dangerous part of Chicago at the time, which was called Cabrini Green, which are these projects. And I mean, like really, really tough area. And my magnet high school was like a couple blocks from there, even though none of the students that lived, or very few of the students that lived at Cabrini Green, went to my high school, but they were in the area, and there was a lot of gangs and stuff. So people didn't like smart people in Cabrini Green. I'll put it that way. But that was pretty much the norm. So yeah, I think that Max's experience with school and ours is probably really different because the transformation happened while we were in. At least I don't. From my experience,
I noticed it. I noticed it though. Like for me, because we both went to school. I graduated in '91. Because we're the same age and all, but I remember how like noticing how maybe this is all in retrospect and I'm kind of rewriting my own history here, but I remember how they kind of started leveling the playing field, I guess, so that I remember that pretty vividly in elementary school where they would not I was in gifted and talented classes, but I was still in other classes where they would hold you back to the level that the lowest student in that class was. And I remember being so frustrated by that because I'm just like, come on, let's fucking go. Let's do things. Let's learn. Let's fucking like nobody in the class is raising their hand and I am, and the fucking teacher would never call on me because I'm the only one ever fucking getting involved. Mm-hmm. And he's trying to get the other kids involved and stuff. So I remember in that regard where they tried to level the playing field and anybody that was kind of exceeding or excelling was being held back by it. And so I think that's very true. I remember seeing the seeds of it back when we were in elementary school and middle school and places like that. It was pretty obvious to me back then. It's like why do I have to one very specific thing actually. I remember this in 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade. I was in an algebra class, and I figured out how to do a calculus equation to basically skip all the fucking work that the teacher was trying to get us to do. I was like, well, if I do it like this, this, and this, I've only got to do 2 steps as opposed to the 9 that you're wanting me to do. You're not supposed to be doing that. I was like, what do you mean I'm not supposed to be doing that? I can do it. I figured it out. I found a better way. She's like, you're not supposed to be doing that for 2 more years. And I'm like, well, why the fuck should I have to, if other people can't do it, why should I have to suffer for it? I remember telling her that. I was just like, I know how to do this and it's a better, more efficient way. Why can't I do that? She's just do it the way I told you to. So yeah, it was just the field was always having to be leveled against the people that could excel. And yeah. I remember at that point, literally, I was just like, fuck it, I'm done. I don't even care. I was just like, whatever. And I from that point on, probably from about 8th grade on, I was just like, whatever. I just didn't care anymore. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go out and I'm going to fucking ride my skateboard and listen to punk music and fucking not give a fuck.
Yeah.
And I was an average student from that point on. I lost the will to actually learn and to be involved. And that's the thing I find most disturbing about the school systems is that they actually punish people who can excel, who can talk. People who are excelling, or have the potential to excel, they get held back, and I think it's fucking shameful, honestly, and more so than any of this toxic masculinity bullshit. Mm-hmm. It's just the school systems are so fucked.
They are. Max, go ahead. I see that you are unmuting. No, go ahead, man.
I just wanted to address Wikipedia Snippet's question about whether or not I was bullied for being the only kid with yellow skin. You have no idea what it's like to be the only yellow kid in the fucking inner city. All the Asians are always just wondering, if you're trying to appropriate their culture. Sometimes they're so confused they don't know if they should let me join them at the cafeteria table.
It's not easy being yellow. I don't know. No, it's okay. I wanted to add something. When it comes to boys in school and their ability to realize their potential, a lot of times they just need to be inspired. And because this is the thing. For me, I fucked up in high school. I had to repeat I think it was my junior year, maybe my sophomore year. I can't remember which one. Because I was trying to fit in because I wanted to be liked. And a lot of it has to do with how hellish my freshman year was. Now, everyone, the saying goes that their freshman year is always the worst because you're the new guy and everybody picks on you just for the fact that you're new. But in my case, it was mostly because I was 9th in like ninth place for, you know, all of my scores and stuff. Like I was at the top of my class in most cases. And the other students didn't like that. They just didn't like that somebody was doing better than them, and I had to deal with a lot of problems. And so I tried to let that go because I wanted to be liked, and that caused me to fuck up. However, when I know for sure when I was in my junior year, I made friends with a couple of metalheads, which were also guys that were very, very much in the outcast department. Because when you're going to school 2 blocks away from Cabrini Green, there aren't that many metalheads in your high school.
Right.
Okay, I mean seriously, there were literally 3 guys that's it, as far as anybody knew, and I hung out with them, and they weren't as smart as I was, but because they were being themselves despite the environment, they inspired me to be more myself. So I was able to redeem a lot of that in high school and continue to pursue that into college after. So I'm very thankful for that. And all it took was some guys to show me, you know, that this is the way to go. On top of that, I want to tell you another little story that I think is related, because
About how your life got turned upside down?
when it comes to yes. No,
I
it's
couldn't
okay.
resist.
When it comes to boys in school, we just need to listen and try to give them what they need, and stop treating them like girls, or worse, treat them like statistics. Because I think that a lot of people in the public education system, they have absolutely no investment to give a shit about anyone, whether they graduate or not. They just need to do their job,
no, they
especially if they're tenure, right? They can, like,
Yep.
I had a gym teacher, right? That there was a gym teacher who was a coach at my high school, but he also taught English class, and he wouldn't do anything in that class. He would give you a bunch of dittos. Remember the dittos?
Oh, yeah.
He would
Oh, yeah.
give you a bunch of dittos that had like assignments on them for basic grammar and shit like that, and then that's it. He wouldn't even talk. He would just give you the things, and he would sit at his desk and he would do whatever the fuck, read the newspaper, whatever, for 40 minutes. He wouldn't do his job, and he knew that his job was secure. He didn't have to. So this is the environment that public education has created. And well, here's the thing I wanted to tell you. This is the story, though. That English teacher was just a short little anecdote. I was in college a couple of years ago, and I was looking for work. And I got a part-time job over the summer, which I was getting paid for, but it was working for a church. And it was a church that also doubled as a women's shelter. And what I did there was, while the women who were victims of domestic violence, but also many of them had drug addiction problems, poverty problems, alcoholism, all kinds of problems, right? But they also, many of them had kids, and they didn't have a place to stay. So they would live at this shelter, and while they were at the shelter, and the women were in meetings or doing like group, therapy sessions or whatever, their kids didn't have anything to do. And so what the church did was, while these women were doing these things, they had set up kind of a, let's say, they basically had schooling for them that was done by volunteers that either worked in the education system in some way, or they were otherwise involved with, in college, or they were teachers' aides or something, right? So I was helping with these kids, and these kids varied in age from 5 years old all the way up to 17. And so we had to somehow do some education for kids within this large age bracket, okay, without boring them. And the idea was to keep them off the street, because if they didn't do that, then some of the older kids would go out into the street and get into trouble, into something. So here's what I thought was cool. I didn't have they had a system, and I was the only artist that was there. And so sometimes I would bring my artwork with me, because I was either going to class afterwards or I was coming out of class. I would have stuff with me. And some of the people I worked with saw what I had. And so the person who ran the program said, hey, why don't you offer to show the kids how to draw something on like Fridays or something? And I was like, all right, sure, I could do that. Like, no big deal, right? And I figure since they're just little kids and people that don't have any talent, I'll just, I'll make it really simple. Like, here's how you draw a ladybug, and here's how you draw a bunny rabbit, and things like that, right?
Right.
I figured it'd be no big deal, and it would be easy, and they would enjoy themselves. So I go and I start doing that. But then there's this one kid, he's 17 years old, He's always going out on his own. He has absolutely no desire to be there. You can tell he just wants to be doing his own thing, right? So I show the kids how to draw that stuff, and he's like very, very uninterested. But he notices what I have actually done on my own, like my work, the stuff that I do at my level. And he takes an interest in that. And then he starts, oh, you made all this? Oh, this is awesome, and he's like looking at it, and he gets really excited. And I can tell right away, this kid has an interest in this. This is the first time I saw a spark in his eye was when he saw my work. And so I said, do you do any drawings? And he started going on about how he likes to draw Naruto and all the anime stuff he's into, like Yu-Gi-Oh characters and all that. And I was like, well, show me what you have, right? And he's like, well, I don't have anything on me. I was like, well, next time bring some work, and then I'll show you how to, if you need any help with anything, I can give you some tips, yada, yada, right? And so the guy comes in, the week after, and he's really excited. And he's got his work with him, and it's like stuff that he's been trying to draw. And yeah, it's crude, and he has a lot of work to do in terms of anatomy, but you can tell that this was something that he was really passionate about. So I showed him simple things. Like every week he would come show me something else, and then I would show him a technique. Like, here's how you draw the head, here's some anatomy tips, here are some other ideas. And it improved his work. In his eyes, he was like ecstatic. Like, he loved what he was doing. And all of a sudden, he was thinking of business ventures. Oh, I'm going to start drawing people's faces. I'm going to try and make some money, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right, cool. And I felt so much gratification from that. It was better than getting paid. I felt so good that I was able to take a kid that is basically on the verge of like getting into gangs. And I'm not saying this, lightly. I'm not throwing this out there. I know that that's what he was involved with, because of the part of the city he was in, because of the kinds of kids he was hanging out with that didn't come to the church. But because he saw what I was doing, he became more interested in doing that than, getting involved with all this stuff out here. And that was nothing. That was one summer. I was there for, I think it was 8 weeks. And I would like to believe that I nudged this young man to go in the right direction, or at least a better direction than he was going, because by the end of that time, he had done lots of drawings, and he was working on doing color and painting and shit. And so I was like, wow, this is great. And that's what I'm saying.
You may know this young boy as Todd McFarlane.
Yeah, yes, exactly. But I thought that was really cool, because it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much at all. And I don't see myself as, I don't think that I'm necessarily qualified to be an educator. I don't necessarily believe that, I really understand the ins and outs of doing that for children. But just having that desire to want to talk to boys on a level that they can understand and try to like relate to them. I think the fact that I was a man helped too, because there were no other men working in that church as volunteers. And this kid did not like talking to the ladies because he didn't think that they gave a shit about him.
Well, that's the thing, though. I think you've really hit on something very important, is that, aside the fact that you're a man or anything else, the fact is the shortcoming of our education system, it fails because there's not anybody that cares about the individual. And you had a very specific instance where you could actually foster that kid's individual likes. Like I was saying before, is like when you talk about school systems, you're talking about every kid there is just a child. There's not a child that's better. There's not a child that's worse. It's just everybody's a child. They go to the lowest common denominator and they work from there. They don't actually foster the kind of things that you were fostering when you were helping this kid out. So I think that's a fucking, that is a great story, anecdote, or whatever you want to call it. But that you did something that most educators will never do, unfortunately, because when you get in a system like you're talking about, your gym/English teacher got tenure, he gets to a position where it's just like, fuck it, I'm just cashing a check, I'm just fucking cut the check, just fucking give me the check. And they don't care about the individual. It's just, all right, I have 30 kids in this room. I have to get them from 2:30 to fucking 3:15. That's all I care about. That's what this 30 kids is, 2:30 to 3:15. And then fucking whatever. So that is what you did, is an incredibly, incredibly powerful thing, because you actually fostered the individual. You actually show that person that they have value and that there's something about them that, it's like it doesn't necessarily make them special, that they can work on, something that they can do, something that they can, aspire to. And I think that's incredibly powerful. And you said that, you're not qualified to be an educator or anything like this, but you know what? I think what you did is likely more important than any educator he's ever encountered in his entire life, frankly. So yeah, kudos to you, sir. Kudos to you.
Thank you. Max? Oh, I thought you were unmuting. Sorry.
Nope.
Okay. All right, well, let's go on to the next story, because we got a few more to get through. Scott, why don't you go ahead and read that one?
All right. According to the Daily Mail, a new study with no citation provided claims that men who underwent circumcision saw an improvement in their sexual performance following the operation. In addition, these men stated that their sensation during sex noticeably improved, even though the procedure results in the removal of highly erogenous tissue. An odd paradox, to be sure. Overall, 360 men were surveyed in the study 6 months and 24 months after their circumcisions were performed. Of these men, 98% reported being happy with their operation, while 95% said that their female partners were satisfied after the procedure. Of course, one has to wonder if these if these two particular metrics overlap, but I digress. Overlap. Oh, I see what you did there, Airway. Good job, buddy. Finally, researchers found that 94% of the men were very satisfied or somewhat satisfied with sex afterwards, which was a slight decline from the normally reported value of 100%.
Okay, wait. Hold on a second. I don't understand this. So there are 360 men out there that are cutting off their foreskin well into adulthood. Why would you want to do that to yourself?
Well, obviously, Max, didn't you read the article? Because it said it increases your sexual performance.
But you would do this is like because it makes you a better lover for women you might be having sex with. It's got nothing to do with you. It's about being better for them.
Right.
Yes,
So,
and I'm assuming chafing is very pleasurable as well. I mean, I guess the people that performed this study are sadomasochists. Just saying.
No, yeah, it's not about the man's pleasure. It's about the women's pleasure. That's the important thing.
Always.
So
Men are disposable. We're just a strong back and a dick to get off to.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to us.
I mean, like if it really comes down to it, men should only have exercise routines that involve maximum thrustage. It's got nothing to do with being fit or healthy or anything like that. Just be a better bone. That's it. So, I just as an aside, apparently there are people saying that there are problems with the stream cutting in and out. That's got nothing to do with me. I've been looking at my internet and it looks good, and OBS is telling me everything is fine. YouTube, however, has been having some issues. I don't know what it is, but I apologize for that. Hopefully, when this is over, you'll be able to watch the whole thing, because I know that we did a show. I think it was last week's Thursday show when we did the homeless one. For some reason, even though we did a full stream for I think it was close to 2 hours, when YouTube finished, it only uploaded an hour, which is really fucking annoying. So hopefully there won't be an issue like that. If there is, we'll have to come up with some alternative solution. But I don't really know what that is at this time.
Actually, you can record while OBS gives you the option to record while you're streaming, so you can just record.
I can do that. So
yeah.
All right, but I thought I'd let you guys know if there is an issue. Try it's a buffering issue most of the time, so try just like starting, maybe clicking back on the stream a bit and let that be. But I'm not doing anything at a higher than normal bit rate. This is the normal one I always do. So I don't know what the deal is. But everything looks fine from here.
We're under attack by the Russians.
It's the Russians. It's the CIA and the Russians. They're talking to each other. But anyway,
can't let our words about circumcision get out to the internet.
Yeah,
radio free internet.
Yeah, but anyway, so circumcision. It's all about the women. I can't believe that's where we're at. Where essentially men are doing this to themselves and telling other men that they should do this to themselves because it's better for women. And there are probably women doing this too. So this isn't really about the identity of the people saying it, but it's just the language or the discourse around circumcision. It really this should not be something that we dismiss as an issue of aesthetics, or an issue of how it makes her feel, or an issue of, you know, men can last longer, or anything like that. That's just ridiculous. Hey, by the way, guys, I know this is a personal question, but seeing that it's steak and a blowjob day, are you guys circumcised?
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay.
No.
Me neither. My mom said that she had something against it. I guess a lot of times Puerto Ricans don't circumcise their kids most of the time.
Wow, I got the shit end of things here. Lucky me.
Well, in your case, do you know if it was done for religious reasons, or if it was more of like a, well, everyone else is doing it kind of thing?
It was what everything else was doing it thing. It wasn't religiously based.
Okay. I was just curious. A lot of the time that is the case.
From what I understand, isn't like there's a purpose for the foreskin in sex, because like that extra fleshy bit at the end is supposed to stimulate some particular erogenous zone inside of a woman. Like I know they, like on average, women prefer the look of a circumcised penis, but
Yes,
I don't know.
because, well, yeah, it does. It actually it stimulates the woman because it's like another, think of it as another layer that's moving inside the vagina along with the penis itself and the head and everything. It's just more, there's more action going on, basically. There's more going on. But it's also erogenous for the man. Having foreskin is actually better for you because, you know, you're again, there's more action. It's like another layer, you know. And not in the same way, like for some reason there are people who got it in their head that having a foreskin is like wearing a condom where essentially you can't feel shit. It's not that at all. That's
Really?
that's retarded. Yeah, because the foreskin has nerves. And
Who would think that?
I think that most of the time the people who make that argument are people who have already been circumcised, and they don't want to come to the conclusion that they're the ones getting screwed. No
Right.
pun intended.
Hey, well,
So I think that's a lot of it. I mean, people get really upset when you start talking about circumcision, especially when they are men who have been circumcised or men who have had their children circumcised. That's
I wouldn't
extremely
do
touchy
shit.
for them. So
yeah, I wouldn't do that. I, you know, obviously didn't have a say in the matter, but I definitely would have been like, yeah, no, how about let's not do that?
yeah, yeah, precisely.
Fucking Christ, man.
Just somebody tell me like the names of these 350 men that said that they had a better sex life, because I don't believe it for one fucking second.
Right.
Well, and again, yeah, compared to what? Now here's the thing. Let's say, because this is it all comes down to what your definition of a better sex life is. Let's say that you weren't circumcised, and then when you had sex with a woman, you came like quicker than until after you were circumcised, which is entirely possible because you're gonna get less, you know, stimulation. Whereas without the foreskin, you're either gonna get you're gonna get less stimulation without the foreskin, or you're gonna be stimulated to the point where you're just numb to it. Because the penis head is extremely sensitive, especially when it's guarded all the time by your foreskin. I don't know what happens when it's removed, but I would imagine it's, you know, it's really uncomfortable, it chafes, or maybe it gets to the point where you're just numb to it and you don't feel the pain anymore. I have no idea. I've heard multiple, you know, opinions from people who have been circumcised about that. But let's say that before circumcision you came too fast, or you felt that you did because, you know, you hear all this about, oh, you know, if a man lasts longer, that makes him a better lover. So you get cut so you can be a better lover. That means you can go longer, and sometimes you don't have an orgasm at all, let's just say, right? That might be a way in which men would tell themselves that they feel better about it because it makes them better lovers. Because they want to be better lovers more than they want to preserve their foreskin.
But time doesn't make, like, length of time doesn't make you a better lover, though. That's,
No.
that's the thing ridiculous
But,
about this whole assertion.
I agree with that, but it is a commonly held belief that it does. Not just by men, but by women too. That's why you have what was the song from the 90s? It was like 2 Minute Brother or whatever.
Right. I mean, I understand it's because there's, you know, women take longer to get to that point where they can actually ejaculate. Well, not ejaculate, but they can come, or whatever you want to fucking call it. They can reach orgasm. But here's the thing, though. It's like, it's not only about the time, it's about the involvement. It's about, like, how involved you are in the act of, like, you know, foreplay and everything else, obviously. I mean, well, maybe it's not obvious. Maybe some people don't understand that because they're fucking terrible lovers. I don't know. But Yeah, I don't know. I see things like this, and I hear people say stuff like that, and I'm just like, really? Do you really? You just
It's
it's like,
about
come on,
it's
now.
quality, not quantity.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what it
like
is.
Jean-Luc Picard facepalm.jpg. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, come on, people, really?
Yeah. And you know what? It's really what it comes down to, guys. You know, if you decide as an adult that you want to get cut, that's up to you. That's your preference. But don't do it because somebody's telling you that it's going to make you a better lover. It does not
Yeah,
make you a better
seriously.
lover. Don't do it because there's external pressure. And I have to question people's motives. You know, I don't want to assume anything, but I have to question people's motives when they tell you that shit because it's not
Yeah.
true. You know.
Well, here's the other thing too. It's like, well, it's like if somebody's pressuring you to do that, be like, all right, well then, all right, honey, you go ahead and get circumcised also. And a woman would be like, what? Like, yeah, you know, get part of your fucking your genitals removed. Well, I'm not gonna do that. That's fucking horrible. Of course, you know, it's like, why is it okay for them to fucking try and force this on a man? But then if you turn around and said the same thing to them, it'd be like, fucking, you know, you'd be given the Spanish Inquisition. You get your head chewed off, basically. It's like this is fucking ridiculous. People, it's like, all right, it's cute that we have this cute little name called circumcision for it, but let's fucking look at the actual act. You're talking about removing part of your fucking body. This is not something that you can take lightly. It's like, you would know, like a woman, like if you said, here, all right, you know what would make you a better lover? If you fucking cut off your pinky so that you had less fingers rubbing on my dick when you're fucking jerking me off.
Yeah.
It's like, what would they think about that? It's
Women
like,
should get their
crazy?
women should get their teeth removed so that when they blow us, it doesn't scratch us. That's what I say.
Seriously. You know, just this whole talk of like, we're talking about a very delicate medical procedure. We're talking about amputation here, essentially.
Well, people fuck it up too. I mean, people fuck up circumcisions all the time.
Oh my gosh, like the story we did about the Indian guy, where he got his fucking dick cut off when he was a baby when they were trying to circumcise him, and he fucking had to get the bionic dick put in, and it's just like,
well, they had the technology; they could rebuild him.
But I mean, you know what I'm saying, though. This is like, it's like, this is when you look at this article, it to me it seems like it's so fucking flippant and I don't want to say arrogant because that's not the right word I'm looking for, but it's just like they're really not thinking about the implications of this and what it means. Like, and if they turned around and said we're going to do this to women would be aghast. They would fucking lose their minds. They'd be like, oh my God, this is the patriarchy trying to subjugate women into not feeling sexual pleasure and blah, 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 blah. You know, it's just like, oh my gosh, dude. People are so fucking dumb. This is just so fucking stupid. I just don't have words. I'm so flustered right now. I'm sorry.
No, I hear you. Max, you have any thoughts or should we move on to the next story?
I'll just say, you know, if you're going to get your, you know, any part of your body mutilated just to pleasure a woman, do the obvious thing and do what Lenny Kravitz did. Just get the ring, you know, pierced at the top of your dick, because that way, you know, it stimulates the clitoris, right?
Prince Albert.
The Prince Albert.
Get your PA. Get your PA.
No. A Prince Albert is when you pierce your dick.
Prince Albert is a hoop through the tip on the underside.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the back of it?
No, I'm talking about like when you. God, I'm so bashful. No, you know what? Never mind. Let's just move on to the next topic.
Are you sure?
I used to work in a tattoo and a piercing studio. We can talk about this.
Genie's out of the bottle now, Sip.
Right.
When we're alone, Scott.
Can't
Anyways,
put it back in. Well, right. I mean, if you want to pierce your penis, go ahead. I say I pierce the tongue. That's easier, and you know, it's less dangerous, and it's still, you can use it to stimulate the ladies just fine. So
there you go.
There you go.
That's what I say. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next story. Oh, this is a good one. I'm gonna read this one. So here we go. All right. Shia LaBeouf.
He will not divide us.
He will not divide us. Shia LaBeouf.
He will not divide us. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Shia LaBeouf's interactive art exhibit entitled "He Will Not Divide Us" was meant to run for the next 4 years outside of New York's Museum of the Moving Image as an act of resistance to President Donald Trump. The exhibit was an inexhaustible source of high-quality keks, as 4chan's army of trolls took to the streets to trigger Shia's faithful flock. Unfortunately, due to on-site violence, mostly coming from Shia himself, the museum kicked out Shia and his exhibit. Undaunted, Shia moved the exhibit halfway across the U.S. to El Rey Theater in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The change of venue didn't help Shia, though, as the violence seemed to follow the exhibit and quickly escalated. Reports of individuals brandishing firearms on stream and drive-by shootings less than a block away caused the closure of the exhibit for a second time. In an attempt to carry on with their exhibit for a third iteration, Shia transmitted from an undisclosed location footage of a flagpole flying a flag with the words, "He will not divide us," upon it. This was supposed to carry on for the next 4 years, but 4chan had other plans. Using weaponized autism, 4chan analysts began poring over the stream of the flag for any clues to its location. Tips came in that Shia had been spotted in Tennessee. By tracking the flight paths of airplanes, mapping the stars, and listening for ambient noise, it was determined that Greenville, Tennessee was indeed the location of the stream. By nightfall, 4chan Special Ops moved into position and captured the flag, replacing it with a Pepe shirt and a Make America Great Again hat. all this occurred in just over a day. No word yet on what Shia's next move will be, but you can be sure that 4chan will be watching in anticipation. Keck be praised.
You know, the only thing that I could imagine Shia doing to top this is if he actually put the flag on the moon and then 4chan shot a fucking rocket into it. Because they have the power to do that.
They do? Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. So I just thought this was a funny story, and I don't know. I just thought it was funny. Scott, do you have thoughts? You just think it's funny?
Pizzagate is real. He will not divide us. Sorry, go Scott.
No, it's God, please let's not go there. No, I think this is I think this is really interesting because Shia LaBeouf, in recent years kind of turned into this, I don't want to say he's a train wreck per se, but he is definitely taken on the idea of being a performance artist and really fucking just invested himself completely in it. And I think this is hilarious. I love when people some people just point at him and be like, he's fucking nuts because he knocked out his tooth so he could be in Fury. He did all this other stuff. And it's like, oh, he's fucking crazy. He's crazy. But I think this is fucking great. It's great theater. I think it's wonderful, wonderful theater.
Yeah, it is. It's just really funny. And 4chan, that was play of the game, right there.
Oh, for sure. Oh my gosh, dude. Yeah, they fucking. Oh yeah. No, they fucking went up and ferret and fucking Death from Above, or Justice from Above, and just. Oh man. And just shit all over it. No, it's great. I just because here's the thing though. Here's the thing. The point I was wanting to get to is that Shia obviously isn't going to stop. So
no.
So I am just waiting with bated breath to see what he does next, because he's obviously not going to quit doing this stuff. Like at some point, I imagine the way this is going to escalate. I imagine at some point he's going to make another flag. He's going to encase it in like a 6 by 8 foot block of acrylic and fucking screw it down into the middle of some city with like these like fucking 6-inch wide diameter bolts.
I've noticed
and then the next day it's just going to be gone.
Have you noticed every time he moves it, it's a city that's way smaller than the one it was previously in?
Yeah.
So he went from like New York to like Albuquerque, New Mexico, which even Bugs Bunny couldn't find, but these guys didn't have a problem with. And then now he's in like some podunk town in Tennessee. I don't know if it is really, but some city in Tennessee. So next time he does it, he's going to be like in the middle of like Wyoming in some place no one's ever heard of or something.
He's going to be out in fucking Death Valley next time.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
just the way this is going to escalate, because he's not going to stop. Mm-hmm. He's dug his heels in. This is something he is come hell or high water, he is going to do this. And I applaud his tenacity. But I also applaud the tenacity of the people fuck with him. It's just I think it's great. This is fucking hilarious.
It is hilarious.
I sincerely hope nobody gets hurt though by this. Like because there's always the possibility that somebody could take
that's
too
true.
far. But
I mean, like
for
actually,
comedy value and just for the human interest of it, like of what people are willing to do and what lengths they're willing to go to do these things, whatever they are. I think it's great. I think it's a wonderful little just a neat little distraction, even though there is a serious message to it. It's just a neat little distraction. It's like, yeah, this is funny. This is interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. I was just gonna say, I thought somebody did get hurt. Didn't Shia take a swing at someone, and that was basically like in New York, and that was I think that's what happened.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like
Well,
he was no. I mean, I think Shia was driven insane like within a week of having started. He was like, "I'm gonna do this for 4 years," and like seriously, 7 days later, he looked like hell.
Right. 17.
Yeah, not even 7. So I don't know. Yeah, but I hope he does because Shia is definitely good for some laughs. Ever since what was the first? Was it the Just Do It? Was that his first?
Just do it. Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Yeah. And then there was a thing where he watched all of his movies, and recorded himself reacting to his own movies.
And he did the thing too, where he did the art installation, where he'd sit there and let people talk to him, and he wouldn't say anything, and they would just fucking berate him and yell at him, and some people would fucking some girl apparently got naked and was like rubbing her tits on him, and just all kinds of crazy shit like that. So I mean, I applaud him that he is like, doing this crazy shit, because I think it's kind of funny. I mean, it's
absolutely. He will he will be known for this, not
Yeah.
holes. But for
I was gonna
this.
say, like nobody's gonna be like, remember Shia LaBeouf and how great he was in Indiana Jones and the Crystal
Yeah.
Skull?
And
No. No, but they're gonna be like, holy shit, he fucking did that Lawrence von Trier movie and fucking lost his fucking mind, and it was great. He was fucking comedy fucking gold,
Then and then he did that music video for somebody.
Oh yeah.
What was that?
Wait, the Shia LaBeouf's cannibal thing?
Yeah, was he like naked and covered in dirt or some shit in a music video that he did once? I don't know who it was. Max is the music guy. I thought he would know.
No, I have no idea. Sorry.
Okay.
Well, there were those people that did the Shia LaBeouf's cannibal thing, and like he actually was in the video with them. I don't know about any other video though.
Oh, actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf, according to
Yeah.
list.
One thing I wanted to mention, obviously the best possible thing that could have come out of this situation, I can't believe we're completely forgetting about it, is the fact that his art project was the thing that brought the artist formerly known as Internet Aristocrat back to us.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
Just saying.
This is true. Well, I hope Shia continues to bring the lulls, because I think that this is I just got to see in the next couple of years, where are we going to be at? Like seriously, in 6 months, where's Shia going to be? That's everyone wants to know, inquiring minds and all that. So, all right. Well, I guess there's not much else to say other than well played 4chan, and now we'll just go on to the next story. So, Max, if you would do the honors, please.
Yeah, I'll read this, and then unfortunately I have to go. So, allow me to pose you this question, ladies and gentlemen. What is more stupid? This is a game that we play every week, seems. Putting up, quote-unquote, anti-feminism posters on your university campus that tell women to make you a sandwich, or having that act be investigated as a hate crime. Now, while you ponder that question, allow me to go into greater detail about this very unfortunately real event. So, some hipster-looking dumbass put up some stupid posters on American University's campus the day before International Women's Day. The posters display a picture of a man dressed in a suit and tie and a haircut reminiscent of a 1950s style. Around the man is the following text: "Stop talking and bitching, woman, on March 8th, and make me a sandwich," in parentheses, International Nags Day 2017. Now, if that wasn't unnecessary and pathetic on its own, American University put out a hate crime alert for the aforementioned hipster-looking dumbass. The university's provost and the Kogod School of Business dean both put out statements saying that the university has no tolerance for, quote, such hostility and disrespect, and that, quote, we must stand together to overcome hate and ignorance. In both cases, I think we can all agree that the thing that we should show no tolerance for is stupidity. Brian, back to you.
I just find it funny. Okay, so this is not what I would have done. Obviously, this guy basically decided to take trolling into the real world. He printed posters. He put them up. He wanted to get a reaction, and he did. And a manhunt took place. So this is the thing. This, essentially, from what I can tell, this is low quality bait. It should have been seen as such, and it should have been ignored or maybe laughed at. But the university lost its shit. Do you realize that when you flip out and lose your shit because someone puts up a poster saying, "Why don't you make me a sandwich?" instead of complaining, that you are actually justifying him putting up those posters in the first place? Because you're basically saying, I can't handle somebody fucking with me, and I have to flip my shit. It's just like Leslie Jones with Milo.
Oh, you know what this is? This is what is it? Online violence is what this is, Brian.
Yes.
This is equivalent to online violence.
This is what you call online violence.
I legitimately can't believe somebody came up with that terminology and didn't like stop and think to themselves, wait a second. Wait, no. Am I really going to say this? And they did anyway, though. This is just fucking stupid. Like this, fucking calling for hate crime or whatever jeez. I just don't even. I like earlier, or like Max said earlier. It's just like every week we look at what is more stupid. It's just like this takes the cake. This is definitely more stupid.
Yeah. And you know what? Again, this should have been a non-story. I mean, granted, it probably is considering the media. I don't think it's important, but I did think it was kind of funny that if you claim to be strong and independent, and that you can handle criticism, and that you're an adult, and then what you do is you basically go on a manhunt for a guy because he trolled you. And so if you really can handle it, you just let it go. But no, not only did the university go and they're trying to hunt this guy down, they're trying to figure out who he is. They have fucking security cameras as though he like broke into the fucking, he stole the Declaration of Independence or some shit. But
right, like he's Nick Cage or something.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, but like, it gets on like the local news. This is on Fox 5. I'm sure it's on other places as well. And they're all talking about it. So it's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah. So and the quote is great too, because it's like, we must stand together to overcome hate and ignorance and such hostility and disrespect. It's like people, I get it. You're old, you don't understand the internet and how it works. And when the internet kind of lapses over into the real world, you don't understand that either. But come on, man, you got to be more savvy than this. Seriously, there has to be somebody there being like that, maybe an intern or a TA or something like that. So it's like, hey, Mr. University head dean guy, whatever, they're just fucking with you. That's all. It's a joke. And be like, what? But we've got to over-come all this hate and ignorance. No, you don't. They're just trolling you, dude. It's just a fucking joke. Yeah. You don't have to fucking get your panties in a twist about it. You don't have to call up for a committee and set up sensitivity training classes on campus or anything like.
You know what? Actually, you make an interesting point that I wanna ask you about. It's just like something I'm thinking about. Okay, so there are many people, alive today, probably in at least half or more of the population, perhaps, that did not grow up with the internet, although they live with the internet now. And then there's a new generation of kids that are coming up, and young adults even, that have always been on the internet. Like they grew up on the internet. Okay. So I wonder if the people growing up with the internet that have always had it, if their attitude towards trolling is actually far more, if they're a lot tougher, and so the trolling will actually, first off, will more trolling bleed over into real life? And I think it will. And secondly, will people be thicker skinned about it because they grew up on the internet? Like, could essentially growing up on the internet where things can get, hostile, insulting, trolly, whatever, actually make those people who grow up with it tougher in real life when it comes to in trolling like this as it continues? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I think so. It's just, it's a matter of exposure.
Yeah.
When you look at it, it's a matter of, like you said, it's like some people have grown up on it, some people have not. I think I don't think that anything that happens online doesn't have some sort of residual effect in the real world, because like when you're online, like you say, like some people have grown up with it. I've been online since it's happened, basically since it started. Mm-hmm. And so I've seen the way things have changed, the way communities have developed, and the way you socialize and stuff, and how that folds over into actual real life interactions and such. So it definitely has had an effect on me as far as like how I socialize and whatnot. So I think it definitely does. I don't want to say that it's like, A plus B equals C, because it's not quite that simple. It's not that easy of an equation to make. But when you're younger and when you're versed in it, it's just like being in any kind of community. It's like skateboard community or in the punk community or in the hip hop community. If you've grown up in it and you know the vernacular, you know the parlance, you know the habits of people and things like that, you're gonna better be able to understand those places than to somebody who's just like, hey guys, what are you guys doing here? Like, hey fellow kids, like the Steve Buscemi, like, hey there fellow kids, what's happening, or whatever. So yeah, like the more you're exposed to it, the more it influences, well, maybe not influences, but it informs the way you work in those kind of situations. So like older people just they aren't savvy, is I guess the best way to say it. They just don't understand it because they haven't been a part of it and they don't understand how these systems work per se. So yeah,
I agree.
I think I kind of lost the plot there a little bit, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all right. Oh, I think that some people were saying in the chat as you were explaining that apparently it's the people who grew up on the internet that are the ones that get the most offended by stuff.
See, I don't think that.
Yeah, I don't.
Because
you
look at Sarkeesian. Look at Sarkeesian. Her whole thing is about being offended, and she obviously doesn't understand how the internet works, how that culture works, how those systems work. But she is, obviously pretty incredibly fucking offended by it. So yeah, I don't think that at all. I think that people have a tougher skin that have been involved in it and know it in a more personal manner.
Yeah, I think that I believe that people who grow up on the internet are it might be a little bit of both extremes. Like, let's say you grow up on the internet, you go right to Tumblr, and that's where you're always at. Where everyone,
well, it depends on where you go.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go there, and then you immediately go into a pillow fort, essentially, and everyone praises you for no reason, and they accept all of your bullshit logic, and they spread these like really these mythological ideas around gender on a spectrum and all this bullshit. Then yeah, maybe you will be, because you're not getting like the tough love that you need. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have the people that spend all their time on the chans or on Reddit, and it's like they argue with each other, they fight, they troll each other, whatever, they call each other fags. You're probably more likely to be more a sort of inured to that kind of behavior. It's not going to bother you. You're going to be like, whatever. And I think that there are the extremes, but I think that most people and most young people are somewhere in the middle where they know that there are assholes that exist, and because they're being exposed to them more regularly, it actually is making them tougher. They're just not the type of people that go out of their way to to fuck with people. So I think that's probably where more people are at. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, because you definitely have instances where, like I said, this is kind of a sliding scale. You can't just say, well, A plus B equals C, because you have some people are fucking shut-ins, and they live on the chans, they live on the Tumblrs or whatever ecosystem they exist within, and maybe they aren't social people, so it affects them differently, and they don't have regular social interactions in IRL, as it were. So there's a broad spectrum of how this affects people, but I think overall, most people, if they are savvy to the way these kind of things work, they're going to be a lot tougher about it, a lot more thick-skinned in real world environments. And like I said, you look at somebody like Sarkeesian, who fucking is just like, well, I'm not a gamer, I don't understand what all this stuff is about, and she fucking flips the fuck out and turns everything into everything's sexist, everything's racist all the time, we gotta talk about it, blah, blah, blah. And that's obviously an extreme version of what we're talking about here. And then you have people who are just like, yeah, but these are just people who because all right, here's something to think about. This is something I read a couple of months ago. This guy was talking about how the language of the internet, how it's changed so much to become more offense driven than anything else. And he was like, when I was growing up on the internet, he's doing the old man thing. He's like, when I was growing up on the internet,
when I was your age, we had dial up and it was rough. You kids don't know how good you have it. I needed a disc to get on America Online.
Right. And he would say, like, he was talking about, he's like, when I was growing up in message boards and all this kind of stuff, like BBS boards or whatever the fuck it was, geosites and things like that. He's like, I would have fights with people that would last for years. And he was talking about, he actually, apparently he'd saved all this stuff and he took snippets of it. I can't remember where the fuck I saw this at, but he was like, but when we did it, there was a magic to it. There was a deft hand was at work there. There were people using language and using insults and using this kind of banter in a way that wasn't meant to necessarily hurt somebody. It was just kind of like, what a great example of it is Roxanne, the movie Roxanne, where Steve Martin is playing the character of Cyrano de Bergerac. And he's like, oh, you can come up with 3 things about my nose. Well, how about here's 15? And it's like there was a skill to it. There was an art to the insult. And somewhere along the line, and this is something I've talked about for years now, is like when and this is specifically regarding gaming, and this is actually pretty connected to what we're talking about right now, is like I grew up online gaming. I used to go to one of the first places that I did online gaming was back in like 98, 99. I used to go to this place called Sunlight's House of Horrors. It was this place where all these programmers went and they made custom Halo 2 maps, or Halo maps, or not Halo, Half-Life, excuse me. And there was this idea of sportsmanship, okay? And, people would shit talk, but at the end of the day, it's like, GG, everybody be like, good game, it's like, all right, man, cool, we had fun, we poked each other, we've ripped each other a little bit.
Wait,
and there was
real quick, GG doesn't even, is that even sportsmanship anymore? I thought people type it now as a way to troll you when they beat you.
Well, some people do.
Yeah, okay.
Some people do.
All right. It's a little hard to tell, but go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But so you had that gentleman's agreement kind of thing. There was that sportsmanship there. Mm-hmm. There were what I like to call playground economics, where like people we grew up on an actual playground where if you talked shit, somebody might punch you in the mouth. There was an action reaction. There was a cost pay. There was an economic hierarchy of like, you can talk a little shit, you can push around a little bit, but at some point, if you get too nasty about it, somebody will put you in their fucking place. And part of the problem is when the way online gaming has grown and the way kids were introduced into it, where, basically parents are fucking terrible and don't police what their kids are playing, you have adults playing with really, really young kids, and you get these really, really young kids who get fucking really nasty. They haven't come up in the same kind of ecosystem that we did, with the kind of playground economics that we experienced, where like if you talk shit on somebody and you called somebody, like you're a little white kid and you called somebody a nigger, they're gonna fucking punch you in the mouth. Mm-hmm. So they don't have that reaction to their action. And so what happens is you basically don't have that kind of toughness anymore. Yeah. Where you grow up in that kind of system where it's like, okay, I know that there are boundaries here. It's like, and I fucking lost the plot. God damn it. What was I gonna say? Fuck me. Oh my god. This is really good. I lost it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. As an aside, maybe I'm a bit of a I don't think this is actually that unrealistic, but one of the reasons why I was thinking about this idea that in a generation, maybe in less than a generation, but I'm going to say a generation or maybe a little bit more, if we still have the internet and it remains free, so I'm making there's a lot of ifs here, but if it doesn't change too much from where it is now, and in another generation, some of the slurs that people use to get under people's skin, like faggot, for example, or nigger or whatever, we could come to a point, if people are allowed to speak freely, that those won't mean anything anymore. And
absolutely,
they will lose their power. And if they do, then people will probably be less likely to use them, especially if they're looking for a way to get under somebody's skin. Because they're just going to be like, well, that doesn't work. I'm going to have to find something else. And most likely, because language evolves, there might be new words or new, ways to do it. But I think that we could get to a point where those words don't have the power that they currently have, which is probably less power now than they used to have, at one point, right?
I got the plot back. That was actually kind of where I was going with this, because like it got to the point where like at like one of the things I really excelled in was doing the Cyrano bit, like Steve Martin did in Roxanne. And kids would go like, "Oh, you know what? I fucked your mom, this, that, and the other." I was like, I'd be like, "Oh, really? You fucked my mom?" Well, they're, well, how about here's 10 ways that you could have done that. That would have been a lot smarter. And like kids have gotten softer. Basically, is kind of the
or you
point
rate
of it.
you rate their troll. I give that one 2 out of 10.
Yeah, and you basically come at them and like, "Well, if you were smart, you would have said this." And it's like, so the idea that people they've gotten softer. They've just kind of gotten softer. There's not that kind of toughness among people that don't understand the internet and don't understand the economy of language and how it works and how these systems and places work. So because they've never invested in it. It's basically
right.
They've never invested in the economy to understand it. So
right. All right. Well, let's go on to the final story. Scott, I'm gonna let you do that real quick and go ahead and talk the talk.
12 compelling arguments to never give another blowjob.
Speaking of steaks and blowjobs.
Right? do not step on Sneck. Hannah Smothers, a contributor at Cosmopolitan.com. Just magazine Cosmopolitan. I can't even fucking say it. Anyway, discusses female sexual entitlement using a series of compelling arguments for women to not give blowjobs to their man. The first, and probably most telling, reason being, deep within your heart, you know you can get oral without giving it. Whoever started the rumor that oral sex is the act of reciprocity was probably a dude, and he was definitely lying. If a dude won't go down on you, dump him. If a dude refuses to go down on you unless you return the favor, dump him. A truly great man will go down on you forever and never expect a thing. Find that great man. Wow, that's a hell of a quote, isn't it, Brian?
Yeah.
This is excellent advice for a woman who is clearly not a complete hypocrite. but despite this, Hannah also Hannah also provides other insightful arguments, such as, in this day and age, refusing to go down on a dude is practically part of the hashtag resistance.
It is.
And men are already having way too many orgasms anyway.
Yeah, there's an orgasm gap, Scott.
There is.
It's real.
God, the orgasm glass ceiling, is that what it is?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
fucking the cum ceiling. Anyway, citing as some of clear and present orgasm gap women everywhere experience despite being biologically designed to have multiple orgasms compared to a man's, well, one. Finally, Hannah rounds out her list of excuses with, honestly, has he really earned it? And you're saving this for extra special to be determined occasion, which is certainly not now. And to be honest, it's probably not ever. Oh, man. All right, you know what?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go real quick on this. This is just silly.
It is.
If you're in a relationship with somebody, this kind of goes to the idea of why I hate Valentine's Day and why I hate shit like this. Because if you need one day a year to tell somebody you love them, you're doing it wrong. And if this is the kind of shit that you read and you're in a relationship and you think this is legitimate good advice, you're fucking doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. This is ridiculous. You don't hold hostage. Like, okay, I'm kind of a hedonist, I guess, right? I believe in giving and receiving copious amounts of pleasure. I think that is the best part of a relationship. If you can make somebody feel good and in return feel good as well. I mean, without the expectation that they owe it to you or vice versa. And this kind of shit this is stupid. This is holding hostages. This is the hashtag resistance. I mean, what the fuck does that even mean? This is like, this woman probably shouldn't be in a relationship because she doesn't understand the idea of love, I don't think.
Which is ironic because her name is Hannah Smothers.
Smothers, yeah. Fucking Christ. But yeah, I just, I don't understand. I've seen, like, throughout my entire life, I've seen things like this, like Cosmopolitan or whatever the magazine happens to be, whatever the title is, Vogue or whatever. It's like, and they advocate for this kind of division between people. It's like, this is not how you help a relationship. This is not how you build trust and love and good feelings between people, by holding sex hostage or for, he only gets it on that special occasion. Fuck that, man. Live, be with the person you want to be with,
Yeah.
make them feel good. This idea that these things are, that there should be an economy to sex and to giving affection or to giving pleasure is insane to me.
It's
I
insane.
I just do not.
And
I've had girlfriends like that before, and I've been like, this isn't going to work out between us. I just don't see it like this. So it's like, sorry, I got to go.
Yeah. The worst part about this is that there are men out there that think that them pleasuring women is a duty. Women pleasuring them is some kind of a luxury. And
yeah, it's a reward.
Yeah, it's a reward. And you got to get out of that mindset. I know that this has actually been sort of stamped in, like, it's you see it in opinion pieces like this one. Yeah. A lot of women's magazines do this shit. And then they contradict themselves. Like, seriously, Scott, 3 days after this article, 3 days,
There's
there was
no
an article
consistency.
that was like, I think it's like 10 or 12 ways to give better blowjobs. From Cosmo, same website. They immediately flipped on it, and the reason obviously is because Cosmo doesn't actually give a shit about blowjobs. They care about clicks. They care about selling magazines. This is not news. You guys knew this. This is bullshit. I put it in here because the entitlement that comes with this woman's opinions on how she deserves to get pleasure and her men don't. Right. And it looks like she'd rather not give it to them, just period, because every one of the things on her list is an excuse to get out of it, and yet still expect a man to not only stay with you despite the fact that you're not, that you don't care about his pleasure. It doesn't even have to be necessarily giving him head, but that you don't care about his pleasure, but that you are deserved of him giving you pleasure. And he has to just suck it up, no pun intended. So that's the entitlement that comes with it, is the reason why I added this to the list. But when I'm here, okay, you can't see it, but I'm sharing this screen with the people that are watching.
Scroll up and look.
That is essentially
hey, we got a tip.
A list of it's a list. Oh, thanks, Carl English.
Carl English, thanks, man.
It's essentially a list of articles all about giving better head for women. They have it's like a whole fucking section, basically. 12 things he wants you to know about oral sex. What blowjobs really feel like, according to 12 guys. I don't know why this is a thing. I stopped giving my husband blowjobs for a month. It was surprisingly difficult. Because, the dick, she can't resist. I mean, she's having a hard time resisting the dick. 9 things not to do when receiving a blowjob. Stop everything. This is officially the most embarrassing sex. Okay, so there's just BJ. Here's one about advice from porn stars. Here's how to give OMG oral sex. And they constantly make these articles because they know that women are going to click on it. Why the fuck do you ladies? I know that nobody who watches our show probably reads Cosmo, but why do they do this? Like, this is, you know what? If you want to know what your man likes, ask him.
Yeah.
Don't.
If you need a magazine to tell you, you're doing it wrong. Sorry, darling.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah. No, when you bring that up, that brings up a really great point, because Cosmo and pretty much every other magazine today, there is no editorial consistency. There is no messaging consistency whatsoever. When you see stuff like that, it points out a very clear pattern that all they want to do is get your fucking clicks and make you a commodity, because they make money every time you click on these stupid fucking stories. That's all this is. And, but here's the problem, though, too, is that there is a certain subset of people that read these things and take this shit seriously, because that for whatever reason, through poor socialization skills, whatever, bad experiences with sex where they're just not very experienced or have had bad experiences and stuff, they take this stuff seriously. And they read this and they're like, oh yeah, no, the magazine told me to do this and I need to do this if I want to be a good feminist, or if I want to be this, or if I want to do that. It's just like, oh my gosh, man. Yeah. Wow. Sometimes I feel like such a dickhead. Like, God, are people really this fucking dumb? And to be honest, yeah, there are people that are really this fucking dumb. I mean, they're just fucking inept. I mean, it's like, come on, man. You can't read this stuff and think it's real. That's like reading the fucking Inquirer and thinking anything, or the Sun and thinking anything in there is the truth. It's
Absolutely.
like, yeah, Bat Boy. Yeah, that Bat Boy's real. Yep, you got it. Got him. You know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, look, I know that for whatever reason, I don't know how this magazine stays in business. Well, actually, I do know. Now that I think about it, it's all those
Yeah.
fucking ads. Because like the,
Oh,
the
for sure.
the print version anyway has
Oh
like
my god, yeah.
it's like
Yeah, it's like
mostly
an inch and a half
ads.
thick of ads.
Yeah, no, most of
It's
the
like
book is
30,
ads.
maybe
Yeah.
like 30 pages of actual something that's like a written thing or something, but then the
Yeah.
rest of it's like an inch and a half of fucking ads.
I mean,
It's fucking ridiculous.
still trash. Even
Yeah.
if it was all just written shit, it'd be trash. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just it's garbage. But I wanted to show this because of this woman, Hannah, who has feels this incredible need for entitlement. And I wonder. Well, here's the thing too. When I scroll to the bottom, first off, she borrows all of her gifs. Anybody who uses gifs in their article automatically is bullshit. Okay,
Right.
Don't do that. That's stupid.
Or quotes Twitter. Or quotes
Yeah, or
Twitter.
quotes
That's another
Twitter.
one. It's
Right,
just like,
right.
that should be a big red blinking light saying, yeah, this is bullshit.
Yeah. And then she gets them all from Pinterest, so that's lazy as fuck. She just literally it's got the Pinterest logo on it. I don't know if this was like a
Right.
deal they worked out with Pinterest or what, but yeah,
It's like stock
there's
photos,
that.
basically.
And then you scroll down and there's like no comments. So, I wanted to see the comments. I don't know how many times this webpage has been viewed or what, but
You might have to actually be a paid, paywall thing to get to the comments. I don't know if that's a thing or not.
oh, maybe. I think they
'Cause I know-
may
I
have
know a lot of-
subscription.
Yeah, because a lot of these things you got to have the paywall. You got to have access to be able to comment on the stories. So yeah, I don't know. It may be like that, it might not.
That's
I don't
true.
know. This stuff is just fucking trash. It's fucking junk food. But like I said earlier, it's sad though because some people see this and they're like, oh, wow, this is really good advice.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure that somewhere in this country there is a woman who is telling her man, "I read this article. I'm not giving you a blowjob anymore." Somewhere
sure.
this has happened.
Absolutely.
And if it is, dude, get out. Get out.
Right?
You don't need that shit. So
Say it, man.
anyway, I don't know. There's not much else to add. This is a stupid article. I just thought it was funny. So
No, it is. It is funny.
we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, but I will show you guys the article we're gonna look at. It's from the Daily Wire, and normally I wouldn't want to share them, but this is a real thing. Not satire. University holding nap-ins so that students can dream of diversity. That's going to be the show topic for the after show. In the meanwhile, I'm going to wrap it up and get out because I got to do the after show and then I got to eat something. I got a steak. I'm going to have steak tonight. So,
You gonna have a blowjob too?
to be determined. Probably.
Well, good luck with
I
that.
don't know. But anyway, I am going to have steak at least. So,
There you go.
So I want to thank you, Scott, and thank you, Max, for helping us out with the show today. I want to thank the people who helped write do the write-ups. That's Max, Mike J, and Arweg. Thank you, guys. And I want to thank you guys, the audience, for coming on, and the CIA for listening in to make sure that we didn't do anything untoward.
Yeah.
And we will let you guys go, and we will see you at the next Polecat. Hopefully the stream will be better. It's not my fault. It's not my fault, to quote Lando Calrissian.
It's the Russians.
It had nothing to do with me. It's probably the Russians, yeah. But hopefully when it's done, it will sound better. If not, what I'll do is I'll start recording the streams from now on. That way, if there's a problem, I can just put up the recording.
Yeah.